Lex Blaze coming at ya again. Yo, bro. We're not like doing the Fugees vinyl. Actually, we're doing our first reaction video on the channel, bro. Are you guys excited, bro? Y'all excited now? Also, my community posts are open right now. It's open right now. So, if y'all want to check out my posts, my subscribers, go on. Also, let's get into it, bro. Follow me on Instagram, my rap fame. My album MF Blaze is out now on Rap Fame. I gave you all the rules on my community post, bro. I gave it all. I can't link it. I literally need to get a charger for my computer, bro. I literally need that. Come on, man. But yeah, so today's video that we're watching.
We had a really good life in Chicago. He's just going to see his cousins. Even you left Mississippi.
Okay. We're watching this video. We're watching this video. Shoot. Watching this video. Best to worst rap albums from these rappers. Yeah. And we're starting with Kanye West. So let's get into it, bro. Let's get into it. Okay. So I'm gonna set this up like that. Okay. We're gonna start the video. Oh shit. Yep, like that. There we go. Let's go. Alright.
We're gonna go through different rappers and decide what you saying to us, me.
Hey, Daddy. Shoot, sorry guys, my dad was calling me. So, let's get into it, right? Let's do it like that. Let's go.
We're gonna go through different rappers and decide what's their best and worst albums. Very interesting because we have some stacked catalogs in here. Speaking about stacked catalogs, let's get into Kanye West, one of the most iconic discographies in all of hip-hop. What's his best and worst albums?
It's very interesting just because I feel like you could put almost any of his albums as his best and everybody's gonna fucking respect it and I'll look at you sideways. I think from that,
we're gonna go through different rappers and decide what's their best and worst albums. Very interesting because we have some stacked catalogs in here. And speaking about stacked catalogs, let's get into Kanye West, one of the most iconic discographies in all of hip-hop. What's his best and worst album to you?
very interesting just because I feel like you could put almost any of his albums as his best and everybody's gonna fucking respect it and I'll look at you sideways. I think when it comes to Kanye, what I think is his best album is Graduation. And that's just because with this album, he really turned into this multi-dimensional musical genius, going from that orchestral classic sound and that hip-hop soul sound that you heard on the College Dropout and Later Edge, moving into more of this electronic pop with these amazing synths. And I also think that's one of his most underrated concept albums, so I think that's why I would put it as his best.
I have, okay, listen, before you get onto your worst, because I'm going to join you in on the worst one, I think we share the same pick for that one. I have The College Dropout at his best. I think it's one of the strongest debut albums of all time in the genre. I also love what he did with Chipmunk Soul and bringing back this beautiful energy into rap again. Plus, it was very revolutionary for the rap game, just because you never heard anyone make concept records like this before in this type of aesthetic. You know, Kanye kind of going away from the thug persona and kind of being himself and talking about everything that, you know, he lives in his life and being true to himself. And you get all-time classics on here, like Through the Wire, All Falls Down. You know, you have Last Call on here. So that's what I think is his best. What do you have as his worst, bro?
His worst, I mean,
Jesus is King?
It's funny just because, like, it's such a challenge to choose his best. When it comes to his worst, it's a fucking piece of cake to the side.
Yeah.
And I think that Jesus King is his worst just because when it comes to this album, Kanye's always been introspective into his music, but it felt like this album was a big statement. It was him, you know, it was kind of his redemption arc, him finding God, but rather than really giving us the details of that journey, it felt like he was just praising God.
I will say this though about the album. I do think it's his worst, but it has one of the most interesting soundscapes than any other album that he's put together. I love all of the beautiful choir pieces within the.
It's not one of his best soundscapes.
I like it. I really enjoy it.
It's not a top 5 best Kanye West produced album.
It's underrated. It's
but
a super
there's
underrated
great
soundscape.
moments like they use this gospel beat with the fucking
Exactly.
seatbelt sound ringing off and Kenny G's fucking sax. Like there's great moments
absolutely.
within it. I just don't think it's one of his best produced albums. By any means, and you also have like songs that close on Sunday on here, which aren't that great. But I think it's kind of a consensus decision that Jesus King is his worst album. But let's move on now to Eminem, another iconic discography. And listen, if you don't have one of his first 3 albums as his best, I don't know if you've listened to enough Eminem.
Absolutely. So when we did the discography ranking, you and I wanted to do a 1-2 placement because I do agree that Marshall Mathers LP could be looked at as best album. In my opinion, though, it is the real Slim Shady, and I think what that album.
Slim Shady LP.
It's my bad. I had the real Slim Shady on my fucking thing. The Slim Shady LP is amazing just because I feel like it perfectly encapsulates what that Slim Shady persona was at the time, and I just looking back at that project, I have my all-time favorite Eminem songs on there. I have songs like Role Model off of there. I have Guilty Conscious. You know, you have As the World Turns. Like, there's so many great songs off of that project, and I love it as a concept record. It's super cinematic, and it's also maybe one of his most comedic plays as well. So
for sure, it's definitely one hell of a ride. You know, you're getting bars about like, you know, him stapling his classmates' balls to a stack of paper. You know what I mean? Those kinds of funny, outrageous
and
lines.
That's what I love Eminem for.
But I love Eminem for always showing me different sides of himself, and that's why the Marshall Mathers LP is a superior album, just because you're getting that Slim Shady persona, but you're also getting Eminem, and you're getting Marshall Mathers. You're getting some of his best songwriting ever on songs like Who Knew or on songs like Stand.
Even
you're getting
Criminal,
some of
Marshall
his best
Mathers,
lyrical performances. I think the song structure, the song concepts, something like Drug Ballad, super slept on. And yeah, I just think that when it comes to Eminem, the entertainer and writer, the Marshall Mathers LP is where you'll find his most complete body of work.
I do agree with that. I just think, like, to my listening, especially for what I enjoy Eminem for, I go with the Slim Shady LP. But I think his worst is easily Revival.
So you're low-key agreeing with me and saying that Marshall Mathers LP is better.
But I mean, because I can make the argument for both. Like, that's why I said it at the big, like, before we started, like, in our discography ranking, we had that 1 and 2 because you can make the argument. But I think objectively in his catalog, Revival is his worst album. And this was such a disappointing album for me just because, like, you're waiting, what was it, 4 years? Because he dropped the Marshall Mathers LP 2 in 2013, and then this comes out in 2017, and it's really lackluster. And, you know, I get it. Like, I guess, like, you know, it was kind of like this album that felt personal to Eminem, something that he wanted to put out, had kind of a concept behind it, but
no, it didn't.
It didn't. No, and
listen,
and you're gonna find like all-time like bad Eminem songs.
I was so angry getting this because, like you said, we waited 4 years, and for what, bro? For collabs with like Ed Sheeran and Pink. I mean, and like the whole like concept of the album was like Eminem saving America from the depths of hell. Like, it was just totally out there. And also, like, the first song on the album is Eminem rapping about him listening to his own shit in the car and thinking, oh, this is garbage. And then you have the album cover, him doing like the face palm, and I'm like, this is all clicking right now. Like, this is exactly how I feel about this album by the time I got to the end of it. And even the whole like rock inspired production, I'm sorry, Rick Rubin is a legend, bro, but he had to get him out of the room for that one. Like,
I didn't enjoy
it on the Marshall Mathers LP too. He brought it back again. You know, it was just awful.
So wait, are you going Revival or the Marshall Mathers LP 2?
I'm going Revival.
Oh, okay, thank God. I thought you were going
Marshall Mathers LP 2 is so much better.
It is a much better album.
Revival.
Okay, so that's for Eminem. Let's go into...
Yelling is the Lopez way. It's so people take you seriously. My nana used to say there's the right way and then there's the Lopez way. She would take off her chancla.
Oh, sorry. Ads.
Playboy Cardi, very short catalog, and he's been active for quite some time now, probably for the 7+ years. And what's interesting is that I feel like there's a nice exclusivity factor to his catalog where he takes time with his projects, people are hyped for it, and I like that about an artist. So I don't think his worst album is a bad album. I'm going to start off with his worst. I think it's Whole Lotta Red, easy. I mean, I love Cardi for that Cash Cardi era, and that's where I came up listening to him. I mean, a lot of people will probably disagree with that, but I don't give a fuck. I think that Whole Lotta Red is his worst album.
Why do you think it's his worst? Because you said that you prefer the Cash Cardi aesthetic, but what makes it to you not as great?
There's so much bloat on that track.
Yeah,
I don't care what anyone tells me. Like, I get it. You know, there's good songs on there. There's people that enjoy that track list and that usually, let's say, for the gym or like listening to that album live in concert. But for myself, like going back to that self-titled and going back to Die Lit, I find they're more
I
focused.
just feel like I've heard it all before. It's experimental. It's daring. It's bold. It's influential. I get it, bro. It's an influential album, and it's impossible not to hear the influence of it. But that's not going to take away from the 24-song track list or the execution that had this concept of this punk energy and Playboi Carti being a vampire that wasn't really followed through with from start to finish. Not only that, but I also feel like the screamo on here is pretty awful.
Yeah,
I like the freedom he had in terms of how unhinged he sounds, but the delivery wasn't it.
I will say this though, the beat selection on the album was quite nice. Though there was
the
a
beat
lot.
selection was great.
Yeah, what Art Dealer did on that soundtrack was fantastic. But listen, what I think is his best is Die Lit. I think
I disagree.
I think you're gonna have self-titled there, and I feel like Die Lit is kind of like an upgraded version of self-titled to a certain extent. I like the track list a lot better. I have songs on there that I do prefer, and over time, I found myself going back to that track list more than self-titled.
I think that Die Lit has a few skips, while Playboi Carti does not have any skips, and I feel like Playboi Carti has really become a staple in terms of, I would say, modern psychedelic cloud rap. And I think that just that marriage between Pierre Bourne and Playboi Carti, seeing the foundation of that sound for the first time, was revolutionary for this new wave especially. And yeah, I love how slow and steady a lot of Carti's deliveries and flows are throughout this. He really puts you under a spell with all of these songs.
Number 9, Half and Half. Like you have some all-time great Carti songs in there.
Location,
absolutely.
Come on,
No,
bro.
you definitely do. I think I prefer Die Lit because I feel like it's a better album experience as a whole. Like when I go into Die Lit, I find myself gravitating towards more tracks and actually being immersed more into the track list than I would, let's say, with self-titled, where I'm kind of just like, okay, I'm gonna take out a lot of these songs, but I just don't find myself going start to finish as much as I do with Die Lit with it.
All
so
right.
That's my choice for Playboi
Move
Carti.
on to Kid
Cudi, what do
bro.
you got, bro?
As his best album, I think that his most ambitious album, his best executed concept album, his fan favorite album, his career-defining album is Man on the Moon. And I think that it's as simple as just his performances being outstanding. If you're looking at the crooning, if you're looking at the humming, the sensational hooks on songs like Soundtrack to My Life or Day and Night or Intergalactic. I mean,
even Alive, yeah.
There's so many great songs, and I think that, this was a staple not only in psychedelic rap, but also in terms of an album really playing into the themes of mental health and advocating for mental health. That was game-changing for rap.
Yeah, and it also spoke to so many people just because, like, Man on the Moon puts you into a type of zone where you kind of feel like you're floating in space and it feels euphoric, but you still are alone. And I feel like a lot of people have an uncomfortable, have an uncomfortable emotion and feeling, by being alone and being, secluded from society. But Kid Cudi almost makes it seem cool to be like that and be that outcast throughout that album. And
the album feels like a warm hug.
Exactly.
Bro,
That's what I mean. Like Kid Cudi is saying everything's gonna be all right throughout this track list, and as you said, you have all-time great songs in there. For me, Alive, Intergalactic, Soundtrack to My Life, Day and Night, Pursuit of Happiness. You
common narration as well.
You could really go on and say that this is one of the best albums from the 2000s decade. But what do I have as his worst? Man, I listen, and I don't like saying this because he has a nice catalog. And when I was going through it, I think that there's a lot of strength in it. But Speeding Bullet to Heaven is
my goodness.
I have that as his worst. What do you have?
Oh man, it's absolutely Speeding Bullet to Heaven.
Yeah.
And this was his take on alternative rock
and grunge
inspired songs. And the only thing that fucking ties this album together are the random ass Beavis and Butthead interludes, bro, that pop out of nowhere, that aren't funny. And I think that you are getting Cudi at one of his darkest and lowest points, but I just think that the lyrics aren't great whatsoever. His vocals are super raw, but they don't sound mixed well. The simplistic guitar riffs don't do the songs any justice either, even though I respect him taking on a lot of the production on his own. It's just an awful album, bro.
Yeah, not only
it's
that,
awful.
but even there's not really a feature list going in through it as well, and it's an hour.
You don't need a feature
but
list,
I mean,
bro.
it's an hour plus long, bro, at 18
I don't
tracks.
care. People can pull it off.
No, I mean, but he didn't pull it off here.
He didn't, but I wouldn't knock the fact that he's alone on the album as a point.
No, but I find that added to my pacing issues with the album because it clocks in at 63 minutes.
Look at something like DS2. You only have the Drake feature, and that shit carries you for the hour.
Yeah, I know, but it didn't work in this context. That's what I'm saying.
I just don't think that's a flaw. J. Cole has done that on all his albums.
No, but I'm saying in the context of this album.
Okay.
Bro, when you go through track 1 to 18, at least if you were to have some good features and stuff to keep you engaged into this track list, you'd be able to. But yeah, I don't find the grunge or the alternative rock aesthetic was pulled off nice throughout the track list, and I definitely think it's his worst. But let's keep going on with this. Who do we have next on
We
this
have
list?
Mac Miller next.
Yeah,
one of my favorite catalogs of all time, one of your favorites as well. And this is one of the tough ones because I was really circling back between faces, between circles, between swimming, watching movies with the sound off. I mean,
I got down to swimming though. What did you
of
get?
course, it's swimming, bro. At
All
the
right,
end of the
break
day,
next then.
I think that I don't want to speak too much on this because at one point we are going to do more content on this in a full like discography ranking where I really want to kind of sink our teeth into it. But I think that it's his most complete album from start to finish. It feels like one complete thought. I think that Mac Miller kind of roaming freely throughout funk, throughout R&B, throughout hip hop. It was an amazing genre blurring album, and just the concept of him trying to keep his head above the water and survive and move past all the trials and tribulations. It was just phenomenally executed, and yeah, I loved it, bro.
And I think what this album does for Mac Miller's career is it kind of like, it was at a time where Mac Miller was at one of his like deepest moments and like one of his most, let's say negative moments. And I feel like that was perfectly executed throughout the track list, especially within the writing. But there are glimpses of hope within the actual track list when you're going through it. Example, songs like 2009, like has more of an uplifting and euphoric mood. While then you could also get darker tones within the album, like let's say with songs like Jet Fuel. So I also like the duality of the album, how there are those little brinks of light within it. And I do think that it's his most, I do believe it's his most complete track.
Maybe his best produced. I mean, think about like the guitar chords on Jet Fuel, the amazing bass line from Thundercat on What's the Use. Like,
yeah, the beats,
John Bryan coming into play.
The second beat on Self Care.
Yeah,
like, you have a lot of stand. Even the J. Cole beat on Hurt Feelings. There's a lot of great standouts on here.
All
but
fire.
What do I think is his worst? I went through a lot of his mixtapes and I went back to his studio albums, and I do think Delusional Thomas is his worst, but I still do enjoy the experience. We did it with our Patreon members, and it was super fun because it's a horrorcore album, and the content matter is super dark. You have this sort of like this pitched up vocal effect on Mac Miller to make him seem like he's Delusional Thomas, and I just think for a studio album, and like not a studio album but like a mixtape experience, it was nice, but you can't access this every day. So I think that's his worst.
Yeah, I mean, for this I didn't include anything that's not on streaming services, or else maybe I would have considered Delusional Thomas or like Easy Mac. Which was like, he was a kid when he dropped that
because
one.
Delusional Thomas was a pick for me just because like his career had already taken off with everything, so I was like, okay, this could be a good selection for me. I still like the mixtape.
I have Blue Slide Park though. I have his debut album, which is a fan favorite, and again, I had to choose from everything that was on streaming, and I think that this is really the project that did catapult him into stardom, and it kind of marks like the end of the frat rap era where he's rapping about partying and having
and then
a
he went
good
into
time.
Macadelic,
But there's still a lot of charisma and like just youthful energy from Mac that I really love within this track list. But some of the writing is a bit more simplistic. The beats are slightly more bland, but I still have songs on here like the title track or like PA Nights and so many others that I absolutely love. So yeah, there's not too many criticisms that I have for this album.
Even me and Delusional Thomas, I still love the experience. But okay, that's Mac Miller. Let's go on to Future. We were talking about earlier. Future Loki doesn't have like a bad album. He doesn't have a weak project. And when it comes to his best, I think we could both agree it's DS2. This for me is the holy grail of trap music. And what do you want to talk about, bro? Thought it was a drought. Fuck up some commas. Stick talk. Where you at? There's so many great all-time Future songs on this track list. And I mean, it was just a moment, bro. No one was doing trap music like this. And the slurred out deliveries, bro. Him, with the melodic crooning on top of Southside and Metro Boomin's production.
It's phenomenal. I think that there's nothing else to be said about it. I mean, it's just constant energy after song, and I also think that this album is a breath of fresh air when you look at the context of trap albums that we have today. A 1 hour listen with just one feature that consistently keeps you locked in. Plus you're adding in Metro Boomin and Southside with this comatose type of production. Phenomenal. But let's get on to his worst, which is kind of the real debate when it comes to Future's catalog.
And this was hard. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I believe. What did you pick? You had Pluto, right?
I had Pluto on this, and there's also all kinds of mixtapes that you could choose from that aren't on streaming. But once again, I just went from what's on streaming services, and I think that Pluto is his worst just because he kind of went for I would say more of a mainstream appeal. He started going with some more R&B cuts, some more crooning, where he didn't fully adopt. I would say that fine line of rapping and auto crooning as well.
But I will say this about Pluto and why I didn't take it as because I feel like it's also kind of like a foundational block to like his music and like where he was able to catapult.
There's still all-time low songs like Never End or Permanent Scar.
I know, but like I Never Liked You as his worst album. And people are going to give me hate for that because they love the track list, but I do think it's his weakest put together project. I'm not going to lie to you. And yes, I have songs on there that I do enjoy, like Puffin' on Zooties and Chickens and Gold Stacks, but to be honest with you, it does not compare with the rest of his track list and even his modern run, okay?
There's been a dip in the catalog.
There has been a dip in the catalog. And even if you want to compare this to like High Off Life, let's say, or even, The Wizard, like, let's say recent projects, still the track lists don't stack up to that. And it kind of feels a bit lazy from Future in certain instances throughout the track list. And even the melodic ballads on the album, they're okay. So
Yeah.
it's not my favorite